Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Coach DC and me for this Ravens game preview. This week, Ravens preseason game, week 2. Ravens are in Minnesota to face a Vikings team. We had the luxury of having joint practices against that Vikings team in week 1 preseason. That Ravens defense dominated the Philadelphia Eagles. 0 for 9, the Eagles were on third downs. The Eagles only had 2 first downs for most of the game until they brought in Cole Payton to kind of scramble things up for him. But overall, just a great preseason debut for the Ravens. And then they follow it up with a trip to Minnesota to face a team in joint practices, ones-on-ones, coach. Lamar Jackson and the guys don't play in the preseason, but they got their action against a Brian Flores defense and a really talented offense of the Minnesota Vikings. Just good work this week heading into preseason week 2.
It was the coolest thing from a Ravens fan perspective. Hopefully it was the same for Vikings fans. The professionalism of the reporting by Vikings, media, I thought was extremely surprising. And I think, Ravens professionals that were there as well, it seemed to be actual journalism. Like there was this, for me at least, I would read the tweets or posts from Vikings staff, Vikings reporters, excuse me, and I would just continually be a little surprised or taken aback. Like they're actually mentioning the other team and reporting on the quality of the play from both sides. And I don't know what it was like on the field from a players and coaches standpoint, but the media was quite honest. I thought the defenses gave each other trouble. Quite honestly. And I think we expected that. I do wonder if our own selfish desires are now at risk of not being, satisfied as far as this preseason game. Basically, I question whether there's certain guys who are even going to play in this preseason game from a Baltimore standpoint because they got so much good work, to your point, in the lead-in. These last 2 days with the Vikings, however many plays it was. You and I were talking earlier, 50, 60 live plays on the offense. Do you need to see Gwen? Do you need to see certain guys on defense? Keon Martin would be one of them. So as great as the work was and as fun as it was to read and listen to the reporting, I should say, it makes me wonder, whether there's certain players that are going to be, taken off the list to actually even perform at all tomorrow.
Interesting question right there, because when Jesse Minter was asked, and he was asked a couple of times last week and this week again, he said that the playing time for the players would be similar. I think was the word that he used, similar to the Eagles game. But yeah, especially with the injury to Danny Pinter, is Javon Gwynn really going to play all that? You want to get Posick some action. Do you need to see more from Jacoby Lane after he was just going against this first team Vikings offense last week? And he was the one that was making plays yet again downfield in the end zone, making plays. And just to speak to your original point, I did think the reporting from both teams was excellent. And especially since, Coach, we don't get to see the Vikings reporters. We don't know these guys from, we don't follow them like we do our guys, but just really honest interpretations of what was happening. And basically what was happening, it was a whole lot of defense, like you said. The Ravens defense looking darn near unstoppable for stretches of these practices. And then the Vikings defense with Brian Flores throwing the kitchen sink at our Ravens offense. They had their stretches. Like the offense definitely could have done better from a Ravens perspective because, again, we're reading it from all kinds of different sources. We got fans sneaking in video. We got Ravens reporters. We got Vikings reporters. We got the players themselves talking about it. So I feel like we got a pretty good handle on those practices, thanks to everybody involved.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of ironic. All the angled footage that we had, or some of it, excuse me, was clearly from the bleachers. There was clearly people recording from the bleachers. And to my knowledge, there was a Vikings content creator, someone who actually had media access banned from their practices maybe a month ago.
Okay.
For posting footage that he was not supposed to. I don't remember that person's social media account at all, But so it was just kind of crazy to me that people were still up there doing that when apparently it was Viking staff members that, um, kicked this person out of practice or basically revoked their access to practice at all because of posting plays. So sounds like the defense is, like you said, had the advantage completely, and we're not surprised from a Ravens standpoint. I mean, the defense last week was ridiculous. To be able to get so many 3-and-outs early, it felt like Philly never had the ball, and I think the time of possession advantage finished above 2-to-1 ratio in our favor.
Yeah, insane, especially for a preseason game. That is just insane. And one thing I wish I would have charted, but I didn't, was the amount of times Jesse Minter blitzed. Got a little more creative, and it had me thinking, Coach, is Jesse Minter just trying out some new stuff? The hallmarks of the Minter defense were there as far as the tight windows in zone, passing off coverage, the discipline. But one thing Minter is not, and his defenses aren't known for, is blitzing. And so it got me thinking this, Coach. Option A, it's preseason. He's just trying stuff out. When it comes regular season, he's going to go back to what he knows best. Option B, Coach, here's one for you. The Chargers secondary wasn't really talented. It was a bunch of mid-round guys, not money spent. Tony Jefferson, of course, Dante Jackson, Cam Hart, Benjamin St. Juste. You go down the line, it's just a lot of average players. And maybe that Jesse Minter now is with the Ravens, and he's got Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, Malachi Starks, Kyle Hamilton, that he'll be able to do a little bit, be a little more creative, play a little more man coverage and blitz more. So any thoughts on that, Coach? Because that kind of caught me by surprise, the aggressiveness of Jesse Minter. Is he just messing around, or maybe this be a staple because the Ravens are more talented than any defense that he's had?
Yeah, I think I have tracked the first 8 possessions. Actually, I didn't track.
You want me to bring it up?
I mean, yeah, but I feel like the text is going to be difficult for people. But sure, if you want to, sure.
Okay, let's try.
I think I tracked the first. Actually, it's 8 possessions. I didn't track the 6th possession. That was the late second quarter, after the interception, I believe, by Keely Ringo. So it was 2 plays for the Eagles. But yeah, to your point, I mean, I usually fill out this column here. Let me make that a slightly different color. I usually fill out that column there. It says rush at the top of it. And that just means
4s and 5s.
Yeah, how many are rushing? So, like, for example, this is the first play of the game. I put weak safety. I think technically it would be 5. That's the blitz on the hold. Eli Stowers gets called on the hold on Keon Martin. Keon Martin kind of fell down, if you ask me, even though he is getting held. But, yeah, to your point, you got 3 there, 1 in the third quarter. That's the sack by Keon Martin, the zone blitz, where he runs through, underneath, untouched. So, yeah, to your point, there's a lot here that is not heavy blitz structure. I feel like we were dropping the boundary side outside linebacker a ton. I actually have a preview to come out tomorrow morning on my channel that kind of talks about that we were dropping the boundary side OLB so much. And conservative, I guess, is the point you're getting. Conservative,
Sorry.
Are you good in terms of the number of blitzers that were used on a snap-by-snap basis? Yeah, I think I would have to agree. That's why when you were talking about it, I was scrolling through just looking.
And sometimes the number of rushers, maybe that's not considered a blitz because it's still 4 rushers. But, yeah, I like the term unexpected rushers. So let's say you drop like a Travis Jones in coverage. He's supposed to be rushing. Or drop a Trey Hendrickson in coverage, but you're bringing Keon Martin. Well, you still have 4 rushers, but like to me, that's still kind of a blitz. It's whether you call it a blitz or not, that's up to you. But you're bringing people that aren't supposed to be rushing the passer. Yeah. So, more creativity, whether you count them as a blitz or not. But I don't know. It kind of caught me by surprise, Coach, and got me thinking to what Jesse Minter will be doing during the regular season. Mainly for me, though, the small windows, Coach, the communication. Everything looked organized. The Ravens played fast. The Ravens played smart. There was nowhere to go with the ball for Tanner McKee, Andy Dalton. And it just I know it's only preseason, yes, but the hallmarks, what Jesse Minter is supposed to bring to the table as a defensive coordinator showed up in that defense.
Yeah, and they were in their, 3 consecutive drives. Philly comes out in 12 personnel on 1st and 10, and we're in our base 3-4 structure. And that makes sense in the preseason because Keon Martin was playing the nickel. If Kyle Hamilton was on the field, we would probably have still been on our base nickel against 12 personnel. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the windows, it's not just the windows that were there for the guys to catch. It's the window of opportunity, or no window of opportunity, I should say, for yards after the catch. I mean, twice Eli Stowers is catching the ball, and it looked to me like maybe Philly was expecting us to be playing man because it's like boundary side out routes to the tight end. And we're in cover 2, so the corner is just sitting there. I think both times it was TJ Tampa. And poor Eli Stowers, like, catches the ball, doesn't even turn around, and boom, he's getting hit by 1 or 2 guys. It was the tackles, right as the ball was caught or just after the ball was caught. I think also of a play where Chandler Rivers, we're dropping into one of those like irregular Tampa 2s mid third quarter, and Rivers is assigned to be like the half-field defender. Tight end runs like a deeper out, and I remember thinking, watching it live, like, oh, there actually was some room there for the guy to make the catch, as opposed to so many other snaps where, to your point, A, there wasn't room to catch the ball, small window, or B, if you did catch it, it was going to be for a short gain because you were going to get tackled by guys from a zone defensive structure. It just seemed like another one of those games where Minter or McDonald, I know, he's been gone a long time, but in some ways, I feel like you have to refer to these guys synonymously to an extent.
Right.
Where you would say it wouldn't surprise me if he knew, 2 or 3 of these play calls, because the players were reacting so quickly as if it was rehearsed, as if it was a rehearsed situation, and you were watching guys who had rehearsed the same reactions dozens of times. It was virtuoso, and Keon Martin, I don't know about you, but every time I watch the film, at this point in time, it's been like 3 times, Keon Martin looks better and better.
Better and better. Yeah. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. And, I thought it was interesting from his interview where he was talking about, I like to play possum a little bit. I like to be unpredictable, I think is the word he used. So he's very much structure, assignment oriented. You have to be, but his individuality shows in his play. Keon, like, he is Keon, unmistakably Keon. I just wanted to say hi to everybody in the chat. Can't take it anymore, Coach. King Blaze, smoke him if you got him, man. It's great seeing you. Work wifey is here. Hello, the lovely Chris. Love you so much. Sherry Berry is here. We have Hoderi made the live. What is up, Hoderi? And what is up, Coach DC? Don't forget about Coach DC. Of course not. J-Dub, he's talking about his selfish desires. They don't have anything to do with football there, Coach. My guy, Ivan Makes Films. Love you, man. Great seeing you check in. Thank you. Hey, we'll talk soon. We'll catch up soon, man. Glock is here. We got Cash. We'll just call you Cash. What is up? You recognize Cash, Coach? It looks like he's coming from your channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
I
Sean.
still don't know how to say the name though.
Yeah, I'm just going with Cash. I'm just going with Cash and Sean checking in. So thank you again to everybody who's participating in the live, everybody watching on replay. Short turnaround. This game against the Vikings, by the way, snuck up on me, Coach, tomorrow at 1 p.m. So this video is not going to be relevant for very long. Next week, programming note, the Commanders preseason game, Ravens Commanders, is on a Friday night. So Coach and I will be coming at you next Thursday night. So keep an eye out for that. Wanted to get that housekeeping. So, Coach, let's talk about these Vikings some more. One of the things that jumped out to me, and I mentioned it just a bit early, I'm going to talk about the Vikings offense first. And these are the kind of charts that I'll be making, and Coach DC will be helping me with these. Maybe he's got a little better looking format for this, but these are ones great. I use on my channel all the time. And of course, these players can be moved around and lined up everywhere. I have 2x2 sets, Coach, just to kind of spread it out a little bit. But look at the skill players and the first round picks invested on this Vikings offense. Even on the offensive line, Christian Darrisaw, top of the draft type guy. Donovan Jackson, first round pick. Brian O'Neill, tremendously talented right tackle. Will Fries, Randall, well-known guys. You got Aaron Jones, of course, Kyler Murray. But look at the skill players. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson and Jawan Jennings. And the reason I put this together, Coach, was just to show you on this Vikings offense the amount of talent they have. So whether you're a
Absolutely.
fan of Kevin O'Connell or you're not, when you're talking about one-on-ones, when you're talking about 7-on-7s, our guys get a lot of Zay Flowers. They've gotten a lot of Bateman. They got a lot of Mark Andrews and such. This Vikings team right here, extremely talented and together. So it was great to get our defense looking good, apparently, dominating these type of skill players.
Yeah, two of the Vikings reports that I read, two separate individuals whose names I don't remember here, they were both like, look, the Ravens defense, their reactions is incredibly impressive. Not just the pass rush stuff. I mean, two different guys mentioned Zion Young as being extremely physical and strong at the point of attack and or rushing the passer. Hendrickson clearly had a big day against Darrisaw. Some of those drills are a little
skewed to the defense.
Yeah, I would say some of those drills would be ones that I would not choose to report on. If I had information there. But I mean, Trey Hendrickson is Trey Hendrickson. We're not. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised, obviously, right? In terms of the matchup, like just the way you have it presented, I think is great because it clearly shows you the stress that there will be for the will linebacker, which is Trenton Simpson here. You could have Buchanan there as well. If and whenever he comes back to play, the will linebacker is going to be stressed in this defense significantly. We didn't really get a sense of that against the Eagles, in my opinion. Last week they were so shell shocked, in my opinion, by their inability to run the football. Number one, number two, the quarterbacks just couldn't get a hold of the coverages. There was no sense that the Eagles' play call had the right coverage in mind for the routes that they were running. So I'm really interested tomorrow and that's one thing that I think Doyle in one game in small sample size, I feel like Doyle has a great handle on, which is what coverage are we expecting and what play call should I use to attack that coverage? Sometimes teams switch it up. We seemed to be in the right call throwing the ball last week, like all game long. 30 of 37 passing, 292 or something like that. And it was a little shocking to me that Fangio was in his base 4-3 structure or base defensive structure, like against 11 personnel. I had it 4 times in my charting. That would not surprise us tomorrow with Brian Flores, right? Because he does whatever the heck he wants, right? And it works.
Oh, absolutely. With Brian Flores, he does what he wants. He is not. We have a chart coming up here soon, but yeah, just to finish up on this Vikings offense this week, Coach. Good test. Just wanted to throw this out there to just show what kind of skill players. The wide receiver trio is up there with the best of them. So our guys got some good tests, and it was great to see. My last note on this, my guy JT, who is late, but he is here. Nerd with the Burns. He was saying on Wednesday night, Coach, he's like, you know what? Everything's going great on this Ravens defense. Love what I saw against Philadelphia. But, man, wouldn't it be great to get a report from practice that Trey Hendrickson is just kicking butt and he's unblockable out there? And then sure enough, the next day, it was Trey Hendrickson in the headlines for both teams saying that he was giving Darrisaw just a rough time out there. And Darrisaw, of course, former first-round pick, really good tackle for the Vikings. So, I love this. So, Coach, before we jump into Coach's Corner this week, okay, I have a chart here just to show.
I love
when
this.
You were talking about Brian Flores not messing around and doing what he's going to do. This chart right here is the best. This is tendencies from last year. And for those of you who, it's tough to read or whatever, I'll read you the two main things. The Vikings defense last year blitzed at a 48% rate. 48% of the time, almost half their snaps, they were blitzing. The number 2 team was Atlanta, and just over a third of the time, 33.9. So you got the Vikings in first place with nearly half of their snaps as blitzes, 48%, and the Falcons blitzed the second most at 33.9. So the Vikings are going to stress you under constant pressure. The title of today's show on my end were offensive stressors. And this is where it comes from, Brian Flores. The other fascinating number is that last column, sub-package rate, where all these teams, as you can see up and down the chart, they're substituting in sub-packages 2/3 of the time. 70% of the time. The Bears 85% of the time. Brian Flores is only putting sub packages out 43% of the time. So classic, kind of reminds me of Rex Ryan coach or the Wink Martindale where he's got the Bowser and it's 5-man fronts and you don't know which one of those guys are coming, who's dropping, linebackers coming, slot corners coming. Brian Flores is going to leave his 3-4 out there and he's going to test your communication skills. So I know you like this chart.
I love it. I mean, I think there's number one, all of that at the top row across. I see as accurate compared to what my memory recalls from, again, you and I talked earlier today that, I get to see the Vikings against the Lions twice a year. And oftentimes I'll watch, Vikings games, obviously before those weeks. In addition, we played the Vikings last year, right? And I felt like they caused us some problems. Granted, we have Derrick Henry. So that's, a different animal as far as what will be available tomorrow. Granted, it'll be the Vikings backups, second stringers, third stringers. I think you and I are in agreement. There will not be a dialing back of those numbers you see there because he has backups on the field. I think Brian Flores' defense is literally what you see on film as far as the movement pre-snap, the changing shape or changing looks, the different blitzers. That is the system. That's not an element of the system. It literally is the foundation of the system. And I will be upfront. 3-4 years ago, I was not a huge fan, to be honest with you.
Flores.
Of Flores, no. And then once, he's in the same division as the Lions. And I watched, now granted, 23 and 24, Jared Goff shredded Flores' defense in those 2 seasons back to back. Go look at his stats in those 2 seasons. Last year, other side of that coin completely. Flores got the better of the Lions by far. And one thing about the sub package rate, and again, I think that's accurate based on what I see. I will say this: Josh Metellus is a different position on every snap, and I don't mean from a nickel standpoint, like a Kyle Hamilton or a Derwin James or Nick Manwari. He's a boundary side safety one play. Harrison Smith was normally the boundary side safety for them, but he's a boundary side blitzer. Sometimes he's an inside linebacker. Sometimes he actually is lined up as the nickel. So when you talk about the sub package rate being so low, I agree with it, first of all. Second of all, there's some times where I would say that Metellus is being classified as a safety, but probably really being used as a linebacker. And it really kind of blurs the lines between, and I think this is to Flores' benefit. It blurs the lines. Eric Wilson, who you guys may not know a whole lot of listeners or watchers here, had a fantastic 2025. He's an inside linebacker. He's an edge defender. He's a really effective and smart blitzer up the middle on pass plays. So everything that we see there at the top, I think you and I are in agreement. We're going to get tomorrow. Our offense is really going to be tested. Our backups are really going to be tested because they're going to get the full brunt of the Flores system. And I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I love what you said. It's, the blitzing that Flores does isn't an element of the system. It's the system itself. I agree with you. He's going to want to get his second string, his third string. Like it's what he calls. I don't expect him to dial it back much tomorrow, if at all, just because that's the way he wants to play. And, if somebody goes down, coach, during the regular season, you want your backups on defense to be able to fit in and do what the starters do. So from Flores' perspective, I don't see why he would change the way in which he calls plays. He's going to call the same defense. That's just what he does. It's not him being rude and blitzing preseason quarterbacks. That's what you get when you face the Vikings. And then from a Ravens perspective, it would not surprise me if Jesse Minter loves it, just like he loved having the joint practices against Flores, because you want to prepare your team mentally. And you said it, Ian Fitchett. Ian, it's going to be tough for the Ravens offensive line from a communication standpoint. You got some talented guys up there too. Dallas Turner apparently had a really good week. You got Caleb Banks, the young rookie. We'll look at some of it, but these Vikings players are really good, but the scheme itself just really allows them to play free do different things, do what they do best, and catch you by surprise. So yeah, Jesse Minter's got to be looking at Brian Flores' defense and being like, Coach, there's nobody else I'd rather practice against. This is what a blessing it is for us to have a preseason game coincidentally against Minnesota and stress our team mentally because they give us a different look than our defense gives us. And before you go, I go ahead, Coach. I want to give a shout out to our guy Jake. What's up, Jake? What's up, Jake? What's up, everyone? Happy Friday. Good test for our young guys tomorrow. Great test for us, Jake. And Coach, any last words on this Vikings defense before we get into Coach's Corner and see what you have prepared for us this week?
So I think the way that I'll try to describe it for a moment is sometimes you have these offensive play calls or defensive play calls, and you have tags onto them. Like the tag could be the motion. Okay, the tag is maybe the last word that's part of the call that tells you what motion. Or in terms of the defense, there's a tag that says, maybe it's in the beginning, show this look. Pre-tag, maybe I should use that phrase. Show this look, but then actually play that. So you have the look pre-snap or pre-movement or pre-shift, and then you have what we're actually going to play from a coverage standpoint. I don't think Flores has that. I don't think Flores has tags. I think the obfuscation, the hiding, the manipulation pre-snap of the offensive line is the call. I think it is, I don't think there are tags that are needed in the Flores structure. I think it's all taught together. And again,
so just to get some clarification. So Flores says, look, I'm going to show this. And because of that, I know the offensive line is going to shift this way, their protection. And then that's how he exploits it.
Yeah. And I think it's part of the call. I think it's built in. Now, depending on, like, let's say, some teams are, big on big pass pro by default, or they're slide pro against this formation or what have you. And so that there have to be tags for him to show a different structure based upon the pass pro that they're expecting. Hopefully it makes sense. But I guess what I'm getting at is I do not see a defensive structure that requires 14 words to get out the defensive call. Gotcha. This to me, and you kind of alluded to it with the last comment a couple of minutes ago, that they play fast and they play free. I do not think they are confused at all, and I do not think that the backups will be either. I think those guys will be in attack mode, and maybe I'll be entirely off base. I would be shocked if they just lined up in a base nickel look on 3rd and 8 and a 2 high safety structure, and everybody pretty much stayed where they are tomorrow and played that structure. I mean, that would be the most unusual outcome, in my opinion, for some of these snaps. I'm kind of looking forward to the chaos, to be honest with you, if you can't tell.
Me too. No, I'm looking forward to it too. Again, it's just, I don't know where my Coach's Corner thing went. Where is it, buddy? Where is it? I want my graphic, Coach. It's like my graphics head out. Okay, I got to open it. That's all it is. All right, Jake. Hey, thank you for the super chat, Jake. Love you so much, buddy. Okay, take that off. Coach's Corner. So perfect segue into Brian Flores' defense. Coach is going to show us some blitzes that we can look for from Brian Flores. And, for us Ravens fans, here's the thing. Carson Vincent played a lot, played well. Emory Jones going to play a lot again tomorrow. Gerard Lichtenhand, who, by the way, looked pretty good at right tackle to me. Who knows? Coach says maybe Gwynn doesn't need to play as much. Maybe it's Gwynn, Ethan Posick, Corey Bullock, Nick Dawkins. All these guys looking to make the team are going to be stressed from a communication standpoint. If they don't want their quarterback to get hit, if they want to be able to run successful plays, well, they better be able to communicate, pick up blitzes. By the way, unsung part of this, I think about rookie Adam Randall trying to get the running back, trying to get his way onto the field. Justice Hill didn't play. Derrick Henry, of course, didn't play. So these young backs are going to get a chance to show their pass pro prowess, which is a good way to make the team. If you can protect the quarterback, that's how you get yourself on the field. So with that introduction, Coach, lead us away. Show us what we're talking about. It looks like some Jared Goff and some Ben Johnson offense here.
This is last year's film, and one guy who I couldn't think more highly of as far as the film from last year, I'm talking about is Eric Wilson.
Yeah.
31-year-old hybrid inside linebacker, outside linebacker. Go look up his stats so that you're listening and watching. See what he did last year. 4 forced fumbles, 17 TFLs, I think 8 quarterback hits, maybe 10, 100-plus tackles. I mean, just a brilliant football. 6.5 sacks, by the way, I should say. But in any case, used everywhere in this defense. Now, who is that for the guys we're going to see tomorrow? Probably Jake Golday. That would probably be my guess. Someone who can play inside and play outside. But let's look at this play. It's a 1st and 10 from last year, and you got base 3-4 personnel. They're deploying Wilson as an outside linebacker here, edge defender. So we're going to refer to him as such in this particular play. So what they're doing, however, is dropping him out in coverage. Well, he's an inside linebacker. He's used to doing that. So I think there's some real brilliance in this particular call that they're bringing both inside linebackers, Ivan Pace and Blake Cashman, here. They're attacking Jahmyr Gibbs. And in fact, they did kind of really exploit Gibbs throughout the course of this game. I think I'll give you the end zone angle of this one. But something I want to give you guys a heads up on for tomorrow is when you see this blitz where both inside linebackers rush, something oftentimes precedes it. And it's one of the inside linebackers being lined up to the boundary, almost wider than he should be. In this case, it's Ivan Pace. And I don't pretend to know exactly why Flores does this so much. It's like the inside linebacker will be lined up outside of the box, if you want to call it, and then he'll step back in. So that's a little bit of a precursor for the blitz, number one. Number two, when you do get this blitz structure, oftentimes where both OLBs are dropping out, we're talking about Wilson here, and I think this is Grenard. Metellus is the safety from a too high structure, and oftentimes he's just either reading the quarterback or reading your best receiver. So he's just taking him away. And they did a brilliant job of this last year. This is St. Brown here. This is Metellus. I almost feel like Metellus is kind of gathering Brown in his vision here. What's the point? They're dropping the They're dropping the OLBs, bringing the inside linebackers. So theoretically, shouldn't the middle of the field be open? They're asking him to fast react to this. And my point is, like, everything is so well constructed, coordinated, in that, yes, there could be an opening in a certain part of the field, the inside between the hashes, if you bring both inside linebackers. And this is his guy, Flores, Metellus, who he uses like a multi-tool.
He almost looks like a freestyle defender on that play. Like, I kind of agree with you. Like, everybody has their assignments, and then Josh Metellus is to read what's going on and find the ball in this. Whether it's St. Brown, he knows that they want to go to a Mon-Ra in those type situations.
Absolutely.
But he's obviously not crashing down to get that zone because somebody is already there. It looks like he's freestyling him, coach. Like, Metellus is the brains, the coach. You do what you want. We got the other 10 guys organized to do what they're at, but we want you to crash down and find the ball.
Yeah, they did a great job last year against Detroit, and they attacked Jahmyr Gibbs when Montgomery was in the game. Both games, I should say, both meetings, they didn't do this as much. It was definitely coordinated with Gibbs. When I say this, I mean the inside linebacker blitzes, both inside linebacker blitzes. It was like they recognized we're going to be able to get him to commit to something, and the other guy's going to get home. But watch where Pace ends up, right? Pace ends up over here on our right-hand side of the center. Where did he line up initially? It's not just that he's a cross blitzer coming from the left-hand side. Pre-snap, like I referred to earlier, he actually lined up outside the tight end. So there is something here, in my opinion, when you get this, I hate to use this word, when you get this motion by Ivan Pace. He's not in motion. He's a defensive player. When you get this shift, now who that will be tomorrow, the boundary side inside linebacker, I don't know what player it will be. You and I are aware of some of the guys on their team, but in any case, I think this is a foundational blitz, not just from an inside linebacker's perspective, but dropping the OLBs. Again, Eric Wilson is off screen to our right. Technically, well, let's pull it back a little bit. Technically, Eric Wilson is an inside linebacker. That's what he's listed as. And from a contractual standpoint, if you go to Spot Rec, that's what he's listed as. But they use him everywhere. And I think that will be Jake Golday tomorrow. Could be an edge defender one play. Could be an inside linebacker the next, an apex, or like you call it, overhang defender the next one. They gave Detroit incredible they just gave them fits with that blitz last year and dropping out the OLBs.
Well, I think, I feel pretty strongly that where Grenard was lined up, or was that pace, and in doing that late little shift, I mean, it's 1 second before the ball's being snapped. So he's trying his damnedest not to give it away, to let Jared Goff set his protections, let everybody else call out where they're going, and then at the very last possible minute, put himself in a position where he can rush 100%. That opposite B gap or whatever it is. What, this is play 2?
Yep, this is the second one, and I really hate to show Dylan Gabriel film, to be honest with you, but it's surprise, surprise, Gabriel's in the game, and it's a screen. That's literally all they threw with him last year. But you do get this dynamic again, except it's different, right? They're threatening sticks, blitz zero, basically, whereby you've got one defender lined up for one of the eligible receivers, but they're going to move this, or for each of the eligible receivers, they're going to shapeshift here a little bit. And this is another part, I should say, that of the Flores structure that I think is extremely interesting. So I'm going to come back to those purple lines, and especially this one here. I think that's Harrison Smith, who, of course, has since retired. But in any case, they're dropping it to really a Tampa 2 in a lot of ways, but they're doing the same thing that Mentor does, which is one of the safeties, in this case, it's the middle of the field safety. He's the guy that's dropping down, while two other defenders, Metellus and Harrison Smith, are playing deep halves. That's extremely similar to what we saw last week. I forget which safety it was for the Ravens that was dropping down and basically taking over this role of eyeing the route and or the quarterback.
So instead of it being the Tampa 2 with the linebacker heading backwards with his back to the quarterback, you have that defender with, again, eyes on the ball.
Exactly. And we still do get the outside linebacker blitz. It's the two guys that are spot shattered or magnified here. So that's just one to look forward to tomorrow, or to possibly, try to guess if they're going to do it. But the thing that when you and I spoke earlier today, maybe I'm not able to explain this well, but sometimes you want to hide the blitz and not let the quarterback know. There's this element of Flores defense where the safeties are lined up at the line, and they kind of will staccato release back to depth. And you get that from Harrison Smith here. I think that sometimes Flores actually wants to show the quarterback that the safety's flying out of there, because he wants to add another layer onto the confusion pre-snap, almost as kind of a hint, if you will, or foreshadowing to the quarterback, hey, not only do you have zero idea of what's happening on this play, but we know that you don't have any idea.
It's so funny.
It is. It's kind of a move, and I'm that's just my own perspective and insight on it from watching a ton of the film. Look, when we were going through the coaching process, trying to figure out who the Ravens were going to hire, took a serious look at Flores' defense, and I just came to enjoy it even more than I did after the 2024 season. Of course, things didn't end well for them in 24 with Sam Darnold and all the turnovers and losing in the wild card round, I think, to the Rams. But tremendous amount of respect. I do have two other plays to show you here, if that's all right.
And one other thing I wanted to mention was the late motion there again. Harrison Smith blitzes to that back half as Dylan Gabriel's lifting his foot to signal, hey, I want the ball on the snap. So last minute, and not only do you not know, we know you don't know. I like that point. Go ahead, Coach.
All right, this one's wild, and feel free to let me know if I'm off the mark or if people won't enjoy it. There's going to be a lot of drawing on the screen, but that's intentional. I'm trying to illustrate the movement by the safeties, Smith and Bynum, both who are gone. And this is Metellus, who, like you said, he's kind of like their wild card. The Lions don't motion here, all right? Like, all they do is move Jahmyr Gibbs. And then check out all these moving pieces. This is 2024 film, I should add. And Goff played spectacular against them from a statistical standpoint. And I don't pretend to know everything that's going on here. I just know that it looks wild, right? And you end up with this dynamic whereby most quarterbacks would have, I think, a tremendous level of anxiety about what's getting ready to happen. I think Goff and Ben Johnson were intentionally moving the running back here to gauge or see what the reaction was going to be. Now, there's something to note there. Declan Doyle worked with Ben Johnson last year. How exposed was Declan Doyle to some of the things Ben Johnson used to try to exploit the Flores structure? That's an interesting dynamic. But going to move to the end zone angle and then come back to the all-22 for a moment. Goff is reloading this. So clearly this is pre-planned, meaning we're just going to move the running back out and bring him back in. And you can see Goff's signal to do so. But try to track Bynum and Harrison Smith. Number one. Number two, at a certain point, these guys were always looking to Harrison Smith to make the call for whatever reason. There was always this dynamic of players. You can see Metellus here, Bynum there, looking for Harrison Smith.
Yeah.
Yes, they're looking for him to get the call. Van Ginkel. So, he retired. I think that was important that they draft, obviously, the young safety from Oregon. Let's get to the play. Sorry if you guys don't like all that movement. Really, basically what they end up in is they just end up with a whole bunch of guys lined up on the line of scrimmage, and generally someone's going to drop out, okay? In this case, it's going to be Metellus. So you do get motion from St. Brown all the way across the field. This is the same play. It's a 3rd and 12, I think. You get motion from St. Brown across the field. The route that kills these types of coverage concepts is the backside drag. Think of Rashad Bateman's touchdown against the Bengals in our visit to Cincinnati in 2024. I can't remember. Wasn't that early in the season when we went up there? Marlon had the interception, and we won 41-38 in overtime. Is that right?
It was a crazy game. Yeah, it was. Yeah, right. It was they were set up at midfield and couldn't miss the kick. Yeah. I think Bengals missed the kick.
Yeah. So these coverage concepts, oftentimes the backside drag is very difficult for them to manage. What could theoretically threaten it is someone from the line of scrimmage, in this case Metellus, dropping out. And literally the threat of that happening is here on this backside drag. Josh Reynolds, obviously no longer with Detroit, dropping out. Goff is going to get the ball to him, looking here. Maybe you don't pick up the dropper from the inside. So all this makes sense so far as how they could theoretically stop the drag. And look, it is a, quote, stop for Minnesota. It was 3rd and 12. They forced a 4th and 5. Again, we have a guy who worked with Ben Johnson for the whole year, so I wonder how much of the type of preparation that we saw Declan Doyle was exposed to as far as the Flores defense, and then how much of this mentality. They go for it on the very next play. So as crazy as that looked pre-snap on a 3rd and 12, and from a Minnesota perspective, you'd have to say it was successful. This is the type of stuff that you see on the very next snap. The 2 safeties moving across, and then not only does Harrison Smith drop down, he switches sides.
Right.
So he's lined up to the field. Him and Bynum switch sides. Keep in mind, Bynum's feet are here on about the 27. Watch what this corner does when Harrison Smith essentially takes his place. He drops out and takes Bynum's place. You almost have this like rotating element of players here between the safeties and the DBs. So this is a 4th and 5. And again, you get the idea of how prepared Goff probably was for all of this craziness. Metellus is going to get a free rush and really hit Goff extremely hard. I wonder sometimes if Flores is content with allowing a first down or a conversion if he can get a free hit on the quarterback. And I don't have a problem with that mentality at all. That's football, in my opinion. I don't think there is malice there from the standpoint of trying to hurt the quarterback. I think it's just reality. If you won't leave in as many blockers, enough blockers, sufficient blockers to protect your quarterback, then we'll take the free hit. And again,
especially early in the game to me, that's when you want to do it.
100%, because you get the maximum effect. It is a backside drag, and I will give you the all-22 angle here. Williams, who's here, it's a backside drag. These drag routes against those coverage concepts, stick split 0, mug, whatever you want to call it. I think on Madden and college football it's called Engage 8. the drag is a killer for those concepts, those coverage concepts. This is the same play from the end zone angle. Keep in mind, it's a
It
fourth and
took a hell of
five.
a throw by Goff to get this done too.
Yep. So you can see it's sticks blitz zero, where the same coverage that Flores used against Lamar in that Thursday night football game in 2021, where these guys are not playing man. They are looking at the quarterback. That's what they're doing. This is not man. This ends up being a man reaction at certain times. Let me rephrase that. It's not a man technique. There's no man coverage skill that's taught here to tell you to look at the quarterback. When you're playing man, you're looking at your man. This is a reaction that is a specific coverage concept, if you will. In any case, it's the backside drag once again that kills it. You have Harrison Smith and Blake Cashman dropping out. Theoretically, you should not get time to throw the football. But in this case, since you've got routes occupying these defenders to the field, Jamison Williams just runs onto that space. I probably should have included Rashad Bateman's touchdown against Cincinnati in 2024. It's literally the exact same formation, the exact same route from the boundary, running to the wide side of the field. And it's indefensible for this particular coverage concept. Sticks blitz zero, whatever people want to call it. We're going to see it tomorrow. And it makes me wonder, what's our answer going to be? Number one. Number two, does Declan Doyle want to actually show our answer in preseason? What our answer will be for coverages like that when we don't play Flores, thankfully, in the regular season. But we'll get a chance to see it tomorrow. I love what they do. I'm a huge fan of how he organizes the defense and how he does these things to put pressure on the quarterback. Like you said, in particular, early in the game, a little bit different than Minter and Weaver, obviously, but many times it can achieve the same result.
Love it. Thanks so much to Coach for putting that one together. Yeah, Coach. I mean, just what a defensive mind that we're going to be facing. And again, it's hard enough for your starters, but our backups are going to be stressed tomorrow. And it's a teaching lesson. So this starters got, what you and I think, probably a game's worth of snaps in these joint practices. Wednesday and Thursday, you would think that the offense and the defense both got about 60 snaps at least between the practice sessions on the first team. So they got plenty of looks like this, got the call against real time. And now, the second and third teamers are going to get to show if they were paying attention to what was going on with practice, and it's their turn to execute and see how Declan Doyle and, it gives him a chance again to adjust to what he saw at practice and then maybe come up with some answers. Yeah. I want to transition here to the Ravens defense for a second, Coach, because I have a question. Keon Martin, we brought him up. What could his role on this team be? Now, I'm going to just say right off the bat, I do not have a concrete answer for this. When we go to 6 defensive backs, that's our dime defense, 6 defensive backs, we pretty much know who 5 of them will be. It's going to be the 3 safeties, and you got Marlowe and Nate Wiggins as 2 of the corners. Who is that third corner? Could it be Keon Martin in the slot? Do you move Marlon to the slot and bring Awuzie out there? Is this a time for you to get Marlon off his feet maybe? And you bring TJ Tampa into the game even. So you have Tampa and Awuzie out there, or Marlon and Tampa. So I put this together, the Ravens dime defense. And in this case, we're going against our own Ravens, 10 personnel, so 4 wide receivers. So you see the defensive backs out there. You got Wiggins, Starks, Hawkins in the back of this defense. Do you go with Awuzie and Humphrey on the field? That's my initial inkling. Awuzie is the veteran. Maybe they give him the nod. But, Coach, something tells me, as you see in the red, we could line up in the red just as easily and have Marlon Humphrey on the outside and put in Keon Martin. You see Kyle Hamilton, he's kind of playing that, the overhang, the dime linebacker, but he could be anywhere. He's probably going to be mugged up at the A-gap or threatening the edges. But, Coach, I have no strong opinion on this. All I know is that Keon is playing well enough that I wouldn't be surprised if we go with the option in the red on that side instead of the option on the black, which is what most people are thinking. Hey, you get your third corner. That's Cheeto Awuzie. This is the time to get your cornerback 3 in the game. You move Marlon inside. Marlon can play some nickel. Put Marlon in the slot and dime defense. So a little bit of a long wind up here, Coach. I don't know if you have a feel for it better than me. I think Awuzie gets the first shot with Humphrey inside, as you can see in the black. But it would not surprise me if they just put Keon in that slot and dime defense, just because I think you mentioned it earlier. He looks like he's getting better and better every time I see him on the field. And every time I watch the same tape, you get to notice Keon doing something a little different.
He's earning it, right? I mean, I think Keon Martin is earning it at this point. He looks like a guy that doesn't belong on the field in a preseason situation. When in some of these, that first possession of the third quarter last week, he has the TFL where he dominates the wide receiver, and then he gets the sack two snaps later. In between there, he's lined up at nickel and he's rolling to a two high safety structure. It's kind of that Tampa 2 that I referred to earlier with one of the Flores plays. So look, I wonder if Keon Martin isn't going to play 3 or 4 possessions tomorrow and be done. And not play at all in preseason game number 3. I don't know what we need to see from him in the preseason. Kind of reminiscent of Tylan Wallace. I mean, in the preseason, we didn't need to see those guys. Their ability to execute really has to be judged in the regular season against actual talent. To the answer here that you got here by Icy, I would agree. I think it's personnel based, but I think Minter and Weaver want to present a moving target. So if you know that Keon Martin's going to be the slot here or the nickel set to the field and Hamilton's going to be the dime linebacker, then you as an offense, you may put your best receiver where you have Walker and say, all right, well, I would rather deal with Keon Martin than deal with such and such. I think they want to present a moving target. It could be the red that you have displayed here on a particular third down. The next drive, it could be what you have in black with the Awuzie. I think that it's going to be a moving target, and there'll be a reason for everything. There'll be some justification from a Minter and Weaver standpoint about which one they go to in a particular moment in time. Sometimes that's the personnel that the offense has on the field. Sometimes it's which hash the ball was on. And I'll bring this up briefly. 2023, we all remember that Marlon had an injury in training camp. Actually, around this time, it was maybe like August 10th or something. And we signed Ronald Darby like 4 days later, right? Darby played extremely well when the ball was on the right hash for the offense, so the left hash for our defense. And he was into the boundary, and he was playing a lot of cover 2. I'm not saying he didn't play any man or cover 3 or match, but he was not on the field as much when the ball was on the other hash for the offense. So I wonder if some of this isn't going to be Minter trying to present a moving target for the offensive coordinator. So in the moment after a 2nd and 8 pass goes incomplete, and the offensive coordinator has to communicate his personnel and his play call to the quarterback through the NFL communication system. In that moment, I think what you would want is that offensive coordinator to not know whether you're going to use the red group you have there, the black group, or some other group, so that he making his play call has perhaps less accuracy with who his players are going to be matched up with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I also like the point that it could be, personnel based. Like just say the other team has a smaller, quicker receiver, Calvin Alston, say from the Steelers from years past or something. You'd be like, look, Keon, that's your guy. Anytime number whatever is in the game, that's when you're in. When the other guy's in, that's when Awuzie is in. So you could do it personnel based. I studied a lot of Mike McDonald's 2023 defense, and I didn't realize that about Darby, that it was what hash mark the ball was on, what coverage was going to be played. That's a really astute observation.
Sometimes, Coach. Jason, it wasn't ubiquitous, but because there were some weeks where Marlon wasn't out available, right? He was injured for a lot of that year. So there were some weeks, and I think that actually worked in McDonald's favor to an extent, is because those games where Darby had to play 45 snaps, that data that I'm referring to about right hash versus left hash, that data got skewed because he had to be on the field more. So in terms of which group it'll be used on dime, I mean, we all know 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, right? The ball's going to be thrown, so that's why dime is out there. We hope, I hope that all of these guys can execute consistently, and we could rely on 3 different versions of dime if that makes
Would
sense.
love it. Would love it. I mean, it's a 17-game season, Coach. These guys are going to get banged up, and Mentor has said, last year at the Chargers, I rotated 4 outside cornerbacks because there wasn't much of a talent difference. I mean, he said it more professionally than that, but there really wasn't a drop off between his first teamers or his second teamers. So why am I going to wear out some guy for 60 snaps where I can split him and the other guy 30-30, keep both of them fresh and get the same level of play? So yeah, it would be great if we could find roles for everybody here. And I mean, let's face it, Marlon's not getting any younger. He plays a very physical brand of football. So maybe Marlon should come off the field in dime. It's not saying anything against Marlon's talent. He could be having a great year, but look, if we're going to play dime for only 10, 12 snaps today, you can sit on the bench, get a rest, rest your body up because it's week 1 and we plan to be playing into February here. So yeah, I would love to see TJ Tampa get on the field. And our guy, Judge Baltimore, thanks again for your super chat, Jake. Assuming Martin is a lock for the 5 spot, do you see the Ravens keeping 7 cornerbacks? That means one of Okone, Longer Beam, and Rivers gets cut and traded. Yeah, I've done the numbers, and let's hope, first of all, we can stay healthy and have those decisions because we just saw what happened to Pinter last week. But in my early calculations, Coach, I have us keeping 7 cornerbacks and just the 4 safeties. With Kayvon Wallace, I think we can get him to the practice squad. And as of now, Longer Beam would be my odd man out. I don't see them cutting Chandler Rivers, who they just invested a 5th-round pick in. Kone played wonderfully, and plus he's an outside corner, so he gives you that extra flexibility of being able to handle himself outside the numbers. So, yeah, Coach, I don't know if you've looked at this that closely, but I do have us keeping 11 DBs, but instead of it being 6 and 5, I have it being 7 corners and just the 4 safeties. So that's my early guess at that, Coach.
Yeah, I think 7 for corners sounds right to me, keeping in mind that Martin is a dedicated nickel. So, that whether he's a corner or safety, he's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I think keeping as many corners as possible is necessary at this point in time. Like you said, it's a 17-game season, number 1. Number 2, Mentor, by default, in my opinion, is going to want to use as many players as possible. And I'll say that until I'm proven wrong during the regular season. I think, and I've said this many times on my channel, I don't think a 17-game season is just adding 1 game to the schedule as far as a 16, reflecting back on a 16-game schedule because of the ridiculous nature in which the NFL asks these teams to travel, number 1, and play Thursday night games, number 2, and travel to Europe more often, number 3. All of those last 3 factors that I talked about are occurring far more consistently in a given season than they were 6, 7, 8 years ago. Thursday night football exploded. Traveling
it's just going to get worse too, man. I mean, they said this week they're going to have a team overseas. Like, dude, honestly, I think it's going to come down to, Coach. It's going to be a 40-team league instead of 32, and it's going to be a 20-game season. And
they are at the same time that a 17-game season is clearly only adding 1 more game. The other demands, in my opinion, make it function like a 20-game regular season already to some extent. And so a 53-man roster is totally ignorant and not reflective of the demands upon these players, in my opinion. But I understand why, that'll be a difficult hedge or movement, for ownership and front offices to agree to. But in terms of the Ravens for this year, I mean, there's going to be some real competition tomorrow between those 3 guys that Jake brought up, Kone, Longer Beam, and Rivers. Like you said, Rivers drafted this year. You wouldn't think that they would, not put him on the 53.
Right.
So those guys can play a lot
again, man. Like Kone's got the outside ability, and a lot of corners can play the slot, but they can't handle the outside. So I think Kone's got if he plays like he did week 1, he's going to make the team. To me, it comes down to You already got Keon, who's an undersized guy. You're going to play Kyle at nickel most of the time. You don't have room for two other undersized corners, Longer Beam and Rivers. So I would take Rivers, and I think Longer Beam's the odd man out. And, Coach, we have a donation from MV Private. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. He's a channel member, I believe, on Coach's channel. So thank you so much for the donation. And if you have anything to say on these super chats, certainly type them in as well. But wanted to bring you up and say thank you. You want to say thank you to MV Private?
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate all the people that, just observing and listening and checking this out. I mean, Friday night is, I think when you and I spoke about this initially, talking about doing something on Friday night, probably to some is a little unusual, but fits perfect for me. I think fits perfect for you. And so, if you enjoy this, we're going to be right here every week, and we're just glad to have you, whether you're donating like that or just commenting, on things that we're talking about. I don't really track the chat here during this time. Jason does. So, appreciate you for doing that, obviously.
Trying, man. Yeah, trying. I'm getting better at it over the years, but yeah, man, still I miss things in the chat, and I like to go back and watch. And yeah, I just like the, Ravens fans, I think overall very knowledgeable. And I think that a lot of people, crap on oh, you're just a fan. You hear it from former athletes all the time. You never played the game. Yeah, some of these fans have really good perspective, and perspective is what it's all about. So, Coach, a couple other things to hit on before we get out of here tonight. These Vikings rookies, let me put our ugly faces back up there, Coach. A good draft. And you know what, Coach? I want to go as far as to say, like, the draft itself was pretty good. Like the entire class,
the whole
all
class.
across. The whole class was really good.
Look at the UDFAs that are playing well. Granted, it's through 1 week plus. There's a lot of good UDFAs that have performed so far. So totally agree. It's a really good class, in my opinion.
So where I'm getting at with this, if you got picks, your draft class is going to look pretty good. And the Vikings had picks. They had Caleb Banks, just a tremendously talented, probably the most talented defensive tackle in the draft. His concerns were foot related, kind of a chronic foot, and he's a big dude. So you worried if those things were going to clear up or if they were going to plague him throughout his career. Either way, he had a good reports from him coming out of joint practice. Jake Golday, we talked about earlier, inside linebacker by trade, but he could easily be playing that Andrew Van Ginkel role tomorrow night, be setting some edges, dropping into coverage, and being that unpredictable chess piece up front. Big citrus, Dominique Orange. If you're not familiar with his game, think of like a Travis Jones. Like, he can play nose tackle, throws people all over the place. These guards look undersized, but he gives you a big bull rush and can really put pressure on the passer that way. Jacoby Thomas, a guy that I liked out of Miami. I'm very proud of my evaluation on him. He ended up going in the 3rd round. A lot of people thought he was undrafted, 6th, 7th round. Vikings showed him his respect. And then Caleb Tiernan, he's backing up Brian O'Neill, it looks like, at right tackle. So a talented rookie right tackle as well. So these are the Vikings rookies that you expect to play tomorrow, get a good bit of advantage. And, Coach, I'm seeing a lot of defense here for Flores. So a lot of big guys, young guys, fast guys, strong guys trying to find their way in this Flores defense. So you look at Emory Jones again, whoever we have at center. Posick will probably be ramping up and playing a little bit more.
Absolutely.
What's going on with, we don't have enough depth in the interior all of a sudden. Voorhees played, pardon my expression, but I thought he played like crap. Again, coming off the season he had. So basically at guard right now, we have Venga Ioane, John Simpson, Emory Jones, and then who is your 4th guard? We don't have one. 7th round pick, Evan Bernston, did not play. He didn't even get on the field in the preseason game. So yeah, this interior all of a sudden, Coach, like I'm kind of terrified just from a depth perspective. Like, we may be fine if, say, Posick or Gwynn is the starter at center and Venga plays well, John Simpson, you know what you get out of him, but we are not very deep on that group, and these guys are going to test us tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, 100%. Tomorrow, as far as the offensive line goes, depending on who they put out there, yeah, I would be really concerned. If you're a Vikings coach, let alone Flores, and you look at the first 2 possessions, our offensive line work in the first 2 possessions against the Eagles last week, you're licking your chops with inability to handle stunts, inability. I mean, Emory Jones was really poor in the first two possessions last week.
So disappointed, Coach. You know how much
Yeah.
I love him.
So, and same here, same here. So as far as this draft, number one, Jacoby Thomas, really great ball skills. I don't know if he's injured right now, but it's so unusual and unique. They have a Jacoby Thomas drafted in the third round, and they have a Jacob Thomas, both of which are safeties. I believe Jacob Thomas was a UDFA from James. I know he's from James Madison, yet another, guy that went to James Madison and then, perhaps went on somewhere else, perform. I mean, Elijah Surratt, obviously, is one. D'Angelo Pons at Indiana. So Banks, super impressive defensive tackle. Golday was a revelation for me when I started to watch the film. I think I pushed it off longer than I should have, because once I watched the Golday film, I think I watched 3 games like almost overnight and was just amazed. He fits perfectly in this Minnesota structure. I agree with you that he kind of projects as a Van Ginkel guy, but I think he can also do what Eric Wilson does. And so there's just tremendous versatility there for him. Orange was a pretty good player. For them to have 3 third-round picks, I'm not aware of how they accumulated all that, to be honest with you, but credit to their front office for for coming out of this draft with 5 really good players there, 3 of them in the third round.
It's funny, like Golday, you look back at it, you're like, yeah, of course the Vikings picked him. Why not? Yeah, I should have thought about that or projected that. Fahizi, I think this is a really good point. When I did the cut up Carson Vincent on the channel this week, you got to see Emory move. He started at left guard and then moved to right guard when Venga came out of the game. And when I was asked about this on Wednesday, I kind of wrote off his poor play at left guard, Emory Jones' poor play at left guard, to the fact that he's been practicing, Coach, at right tackle and right guard. And it's like, okay. By the way, Voorhees looks so bad, Emory. Why don't you give us a look over there at left guard? Because we can't take this crap anymore. So I think, from Emory's perspective, when I turned on the film last year and Emory was at left guard, he looked fine. He built up my expectations. Like, man, I like Emory Jones. So maybe his poor performance at left guard, to our guy Fahizi's point, was just like, hey, I've been practicing at right guard, been practicing at right tackle. Now they're throwing me in at left guard and just had a bad couple of series. So maybe that's, I don't know, Coach. I want to believe that anyway. I think that's
I mean,
Fahizi's point is valid.
Offensive line moving from one side to the other,
backing them up as well. Yeah,
is not the same thing as a defensive lineman lining up on the right one play and lining up on the left another. It's totally different, right? So it's a different dynamic, number one. Number two, it got so rough for me to watch early in the game as far as Emory Jones that when I did get access to the All-22 film the next day and I saw a poor block, I remember the first thought in my mind was, I hope it's not Emory Jones again. It just, and it wasn't in that particular instance. From memory, it does seem like he played a little better off that right-hand side. I would agree. I felt like him and Vincent got better as the game went on. I wasn't impressed with Vincent handling stunts at all early in the game. I felt like he was wrong 2 or maybe 3 different times, but things settled down there. And to the point where I feel like third, fourth quarter, he actually played, pretty smooth and looked confident and under control. It'll be a different beast tomorrow with what Flores is going to throw out there. A lot of the demands are mental and awareness / recognition, right, as opposed to physical.
Yeah, Carson Vincent, physical phenom to me, man. Like, he stands out. You watch the tape, he doesn't have to rush to his spot, Coach. He just glides there at his size. And, from my scouting chops, you just look at him like, man, this guy, there just aren't many guys Carson Vincent's size that can move the way he does. So, still, you're talking about a developmental pick, a 5th-round pick. Arrow's still up for Carson Vincent. Something that I don't think's been talked about a lot, Coach. So let's end on this. Rasheen Ali hasn't practiced in quite some time. I haven't looked up, how long it's been, but it's been a while. The Ravens signed Jonathan Ward, veteran running back, this week to kind of help them out with preseason games and preseason snaps. But you kind of wondering what's happened with Rasheen Ali. The Ravens' 3 running backs, 3 of the 4 seem set with, of course, King Henry, Justice Hill, Adam Randall, the rookie, who's got to score a touchdown last week, showed some promise. But that fourth running back spot, I mean, you don't have to keep four running backs. You can
Right.
keep three. Ali's value on this team comes from being a core special teamer. So Ali covers kicks. He's our primary kick returner. He's one of the two dudes that are back there on kickoff returns. So Ali, a core special teamer, he's not out there. He's banged up. So the running backs behind him on the depth chart, the two undrafted rookies who are on the team, both Tal Tolliver and Dante McMillan, will be showcased tomorrow. And curious to see, are any of these guys good enough on special teams? What's their return ability? Can they step up? Are they worthy of protecting if Ali, say, has to go on IR, or if we just want to reset the clock and be like, look, this is Ali's third year.
Right.
He's banged up a lot. We like Tal Tolliver almost as much as Ali, and we got Tal Tolliver for 4 years where we only got Ali for this year and next. So big opportunity for those two running backs, I think, with Ali out again to showcase what they can do here in Minnesota.
Both of them are UDFAs, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I've thought this before. We're a ways out from it, obviously, as far as the 53-man roster. But sometimes I wonder if
9 days away, though, Coach. So it is kind of sneaking up.
Sometimes I wonder if you have two players of close ability, if you don't leave both of them out there, and then just if one of them gets picked up by someone, you just retain the other one, I guess is my point.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see. I mean,
no, it's true. It's true.
It's got to be difficult to be a third or fourth string running back asked to play a ton of special teams, which you are because of the limitations of a 53-man roster. And then someone like myself or anyone criticize you for your pass pro. Nonetheless, last year, I did not think that Rasheen Ali was anywhere near to the quality of pass pro that so many others espoused. I didn't see it the same way. So as far as those other guys, the two you mentioned, if they're able to play on special teams and or actually protect the quarterback tomorrow against Minnesota, then that levels them up a whole lot. That's a great point, in my opinion, that you made about special teams, but the pass pro initially as well, because that's going to be the specific challenge. I think it's pretty obvious. We're going to be in a number of third and fives, third and sixes tomorrow, and how we hold up from a pass pro standpoint is going to give those guys opportunities to make plays. I look for our quarterbacks to hopefully not turn the football over, and that could mean at times putting them in position to take a sack instead of throwing into a coverage that they're a little bit unsure about, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Like I point to that, you mentioned it earlier, the Flores when he was with the Dolphins in 2021, Lamar goes down there, has zero answers to the test questions in Greg Roman's offense. And I think I was talking to you after the game. It was just what's the saying? It was low key a good game from Lamar. Like he had nowhere to go with the football. Flores was baiting him. I think nose tackle Adam Butler dropped in coverage an insane amount of times that day. There was nowhere to go with the ball. Lamar could have threw 5, 6, 7 interceptions and didn't. Kept the Ravens in that game. It was a horrible game for Ravens fans Thursday night in Miami. But yeah, man, like these running backs right here, he's like, okay, well, shoot. If they look, maybe the coaches are saying, yeah, they look pretty good. Let's take Tal Tolliver. Elijah Tal Tolliver looked pretty good in pass protection last week, coach, against the Eagles. But this week it's Brian Flores. It's a different game, and he comes out and he protects your quarterback and is mentally ahead of the game on that for a UDFA rookie. Like for Tal Tolliver and McMillan, this is their chance to be like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I can protect the quarterback, and it is hard for these young backs to learn pass protection. So I kind of like they're taking a Mensa level quiz tomorrow. If they pass that, it's good for their chances.
And as a Ravens coaching staff, you're looking at, okay, if something were to happen to multiple running backs in one game, and we needed to put someone in third, fourth stringer, then we need to have something we can count on. And pass pro is a part of that equation. Now, granted, we won't play the Vikings in the regular season, thankfully, but tomorrow could get ugly if these guys aren't prepared from a running back, tight end standpoint, number one, but the quarterbacks as well.
Yeah.
Those guys are fortunately the second and third stringers got reps the last 2 days as well. So they got an idea of what they were going to see, from Flores and the Vikings. And Declan Doyle, not to spin this, in another direction, but Declan Doyle calling plays against Fangio last week, and then Flores for 2 days this week, and now Flores in a game, I think is a huge asset to his development. Not that he needed to develop. He's already an offensive coordinator for, one of the top teams in the NFL, having Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I think it's an asset for Declan Doyle after tomorrow to be able to look at, okay, what have these guys done? Why did they do these things, perhaps? And the reality is, people may not be aware of this. Oftentimes in scrimmage situations, you talk to the other team's coach after the game. Now, at the NFL level, that may not occur in the same manner, meaning Declan Doyle and Brian Flores, they're not going to be on the phone together Sunday morning. That's not what I'm talking about. But there could be someone from the Viking staff who knows Declan Doyle well, and hey, this is why we were doing this, or hey, we saw this with your pass pro on 3rd and 6, or whatever. Those conversations occur, number one, and number two, I think Doyle is in a unique position now, having faced Fangio and Flores in 2 weeks, and I think it'll be a positive coming out of here, even if middle of the first quarter or early second quarter tomorrow, things might look really ugly.
Love it, man. Love it. Yeah. I mean, the communication between teams, sometimes that's just stuff that we don't know, but a lot of these guys are happy to help each other in their development. They work together before. They have a lot of respect for each other. And this is part of what I like about the joint practices is they had not only tomorrow's game, but the 2 practices together where they were talking, hey, what do you want to work on? Do you think we need extra red zone work? This kind of thing. Well, we want to work on this, but you guys said you want to work on that. Let's put our heads together and figure out how we're going to struggle. Like they're working, like these coaching staffs have been working together.
Absolutely.
This
no
week.
doubt.
And there's a respect level there that I think will pour into the game.
No, 100%. I mean, you will get opportunities to talk to the other team's coach even before the day of the joint practice or scrimmages, which essentially is what those are, and basically say, hey, we want to work on our trips coverages where the offense goes from 2x2 and they motion to 3x1, which is trips. And can you give us 6-8 plays of that in a row at some point? And you script it or coordinate it. Now, I don't pretend to know at the NFL level exactly who the people are having those conversations, but I guarantee you they occur, number one. Number two, you may, to get real specific, hey, we're having trouble dealing with a shade 1 technique on outside zone to our right. And so we're going to run that play 4 or 5 times in this particular drills, in this particular portion of practice. Can you give us that look? And with Flores being so unpredictable, you may actually need to have that conversation with him and say, can you give us a shade 1 to one side, some of these plays here, because you never know what you're going to get from him. I absolutely think that those guys had productive conversations before the joint practices for sure. And it seemed to me as if these teams were super respectful of each other. Did you see the picture of Justin Jefferson and Jacoby Lane together?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Jacoby Lane seems like he goes over big with the the really talented of the talented and even the legends. He seems like he's getting I don't know, man. He seems like he's skipping some rookie steps, man. His talent just shows so well. So, Coach, yeah, I don't know how I feel about what you said on Jovan Gwynn. And bring it up one more time. I would think I'm going to disagree with you on this, but maybe we're saying the same thing. I want to protect Jovan Gwynn as well if he's looking as good as he's looked last week all summer. But I still think you need to see a good bit of Jovan Gwynn. I think you need to get a good look at Corey Bullock. You want to test Ethan Posick out a little bit, but with him being a veteran coach, I don't need to run Ethan Posick into the ground either. Like, let him come back from this Achilles injury, because he might well be the best option at center on this team come, week 10. You know what I mean? It might be, what if Jovan Gwynn busts out and this is a preseason flash in the pan? Well, hey, at least you still got Ethan Posick. You know what you're getting from him. So I don't know how much I want to play these guys on the interior.
Gwynn,
Yeah, like
I
I
wouldn't
don't
play
know
him at
how to
all.
balance it.
I wouldn't play him at
Well,
all.
somebody's
I
got to
mean,
play though. Somebody. I
yeah,
mean, you're not gonna.
that's
You don't
right.
want to
That's
run.
right.
You don't want to run Posick into the ground for a half
Right.
his first action back, right? Like,
Right.
and you don't want to
Yeah.
get your quarterback killed. You want to actually like execute your offense. So
It's a
I'm
balance.
thinking
Yeah.
through it. Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 possessions of Gwynn. He does seem to be pretty solid so far. I think Gwynn and Vega were radically different than the other guys that I saw on the offensive line. First 2 possessions, at least, if that makes sense. Last week.
Yeah. Venga had 2 that I wanted back for him, but overall, he looks like Venga Ioane, man. And if you got a taste and you watch some cut ups on him, I have one on my channel. You can see why I loved him so much. Like, Coach, it's not just his nastiness and taking the will away from people and looking for work, and his technique in pass protection was some of the best I'd seen coming out. So not only are you getting this big nasty dude who can move, he's like technically sound, way ahead of the game compared to most college players. Love Venga Ioane. I'm hoping by the end of this season, Coach, that this right side of the line, it wouldn't surprise me. If you're Roger Rosengarten, think you come into the league in your first 2 years as a starter, you're playing next to Daniel bleeping Fa'alele. That's the guy you're depending on. To see Roger take a big step up and Ioane come into the league and do well. And then that's the strength of our line. Maybe Ronnie's up and down, getting older. John Simpson, of course, is going to be up and down, but hoping that Venga and Roger can be the stalwarts of this line, man.
Yeah, it was like nightmare fuel the other day when your timeline is full of Falele clips. The day that he's traded from the Giants, it's like, are we still really exposed to this situation? And I understand people saying, stop talking about Harbaugh, stop talking about Falele or whatever. No, Ravens fans were not wrong for having a visceral reaction that day, because they watched Lamar Jackson be put in a situation where he was operating uphill, and he's operating
Impossible
uphill.
situations. And
Yeah.
King Henry. Both of those
Yeah.
guys on the screen behind us. You got 2 Hall of Famers playing their asses off, and you played favorites and played Falele and Voorhees. But yeah,
Below
damn
average,
right.
below average NFL offensive lineman, reality, both of them, and that's been proven over time. So I think I said this a couple times in our Ravens Discord. I didn't perceive any lack of maturity in Ravens fans' reactions. I thought it was justified, number one. And, Giants fans on the other side, why are you worried about this? Why are y'all still talking about Harbaugh? Why are you this? Well, because we saw a pattern of decision-making that put the two greatest assets, to your point, at risk, either physically or, from the standpoint of their legacy. Both of these guys want to win a Super Bowl title. So I don't think people were wrong for that at all. What was the quote from a Lions fan up there about Derek Moore?
Yeah, we have Jay Mommy. And she said earlier that she knows she's outnumbered. So we have one of your Lions fans, I believe. I'm just going to
Moore played well the other day. Moore played well the other day, apparently, which is awesome to see, because I think he'd been out for like 7 or 8 days. Derek Moore, who was obviously taken one pick before the Ravens took Zion. If you recall, the Lions traded up, in fact, to get in front of us.
And I thought the Lions were going to take Zion from us. Like, Zion seemed like a Lions, a Jack Campbell type player. So yeah, Dan Campbell, excuse me, type player. So yeah, the fact that they took Derek Moore, I kind of like, because I like Zion better than Derek Moore. But yeah, okay. I'm feeling that they got Jack Campbell and Dan Campbell there. Did you mess up the names there, Coach, ever?
Right, I've done that before. I've absolutely done that before. So
yeah, and Tomato just echoing. I do not blame Ravens fans and Sherry Voorhees. Yeah, he would have a short leash with me, Sherry. I watched Voorhees stink it up for 17 games last year, and he was worse than Fa'alele on many of occasion, which is kind of tough to do. So, Yeah. So, hey, Coach, thank you once again to everyone out there for joining us for these game previews. Another note, next week, the Ravens play at home against the Commanders on a Friday night, 1 week from today. So, our show next week will be on a Thursday. So, please not only subscribe to Coach and I's channel, but maybe set a notifications on and a reminder for you. So, next week, Coach, will be a day early to get our last preseason action in. And then from there, Jack, it's regular season time, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one this week. I think probably more so than next week. My
Yeah,
anticipation would be extended time against the Commanders of watching, lower end of the depth chart play
right.
football. Tomorrow, someone in the comment section, not to pull up that issue again, but someone in the comment section brought up wanting to see Postage more.
That's our
I
guy,
would be
JT.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't look. It sounds probably hypocritical in that Gwen, I think we should protect Postage, who's coming off an injury. I'm advocating for him to play. If he's healthy, if he's not healthy, why is he on the field? If he's not 100%, he shouldn't be out there. So I think the Ravens, they have to play someone, to your point, Jason, tomorrow. But next week, I don't think we see Postage. I don't think we see Gwen, in particular because of the injury to Pinter. That obviously,
Right.
impacts those things, in my opinion. So maybe, maybe it's possible that they want to get a look in the first half at maybe both of those guys against the Flores structure. But I mean, one quarter or a half each, and then who do you play against the third stringers? Because that's what Postage did last week, right? He was dominating guys that were pretty far down on the Eagles depth
Yeah.
chart. So there's just not enough snaps in the first half, in my opinion, to go one quarter for Gwen and one quarter for Postage, and then let Bullock and others take the second half. Does that make sense?
I think Posick is healthy enough to practice in full, but I don't know if he's healthy enough to take a ton of snaps.
You
So,
mean like a full game?
well, yeah, and I'm saying you want to work your way up to that, obviously. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't push it and overwork him. So, yeah, I think there's only one way to get into football shape, and that's to play football. So I think that's why he's activated off a pup. We saw the picture of him. When it was at his back, and the one calf looks a lot smaller than the other calf. Like he's really got to build up strength in that calf where his Achilles was injured. So yeah, thanks JT for that comment. Seeing a Gwyn one quarter here. So yeah, maybe Gwyn 2 series, Posick 2 series, and then close it out with Dawkins and Bullock. Maybe actually give Bullock a chance to make the roster. 1.5 Bullock. So yeah, I feel you on that. And coach, I'm co-signing with you on this. Next week's game, it's basically garbage time. Like where you say garbage time in a game where the game's over. You're not going to see people who play a lot next week. Next week's game aren't making the roster. It's
Yeah,
their
and it's
time to showcase, and you thank them, coach, for sticking with you and
yeah,
working their ass off with your team. You give them time to put some good stuff on tape, so maybe they can make a practice squad.
no, 100% totally agree. Even though the next part of what I say might sound like it's contradicting that, I totally agree there. I think of Tony Jefferson, week 3 of the preseason, 2024. If you recall, he comes out of retirement, and that third preseason game, he had 16 tackles, an interception, a forced fumble. I think he may have had a sack. It was ludicrous, right? And he stuck around on the Chargers roster. So, I think we both have a ton of respect, obviously, for the people who will play a lot of snaps next week. But this, to me, tomorrow is the last look for some of these guys. What can they actually do week 1 of the regular season to kind of project Posich, Gwen? My suspicion is that the offensive line coaching staff doesn't need to see any more of Gwen, really. I mean,
Right.
gone through 2 days of joint practices with the Vikings, you should probably have a pretty good idea of it. Of course, they have the film and they've studied it. So we'll see. Selfishly, yeah, I'd like to see those guys play, but I'd like to see them hold back on the reins, a little bit to mitigate or limit
Protect the
risk,
players.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, yeah.
Protect their players, man. Yeah. And Jay Mommy, thank you for asking. Yes. Huddle It Up Films. As you can see on that's my YouTube. Even if you wanted to go and subscribe just to support, that would be really nice of you. Thank you. It's all Ravens coverage over there. Ravens fan, Baltimore centric. I live here in Baltimore. But anybody watching on Coach DC's channel who wants to support me, I don't spam a lot of content. I go on live Wednesday nights at 9 at my channel, and I go on with Coach to preview these Ravens games. So, Coach, thank you. Yeah, it's on YouTube, J Mommy. On YouTube, Wednesday nights live. Huddle It Up Films is on YouTube, and it's also on social media as well. So yeah, man, thank you, Coach. Another great show. Look forward to next week previewing, and then we'll figure out what we want to do that week in between, where there's no game to preview because we got a 2-week break. So, love you so much, Coach. Thank you for everyone to joining us. And with that, Coach, would you like to say goodnight to everyone?
Yeah, man, appreciate you guys joining on both of our channels. I mean, we're looking for as much interaction / questions or observations as possible. So if you didn't get a response from myself or Jason here, put it in the comment section below, and one or both of us will try to address it. I mean, we're looking forward to this one. Vikings are obviously not in our division, and we won't face them. So rooting for both teams to play at a high level. I think we're all pretty much on the same page. We expect to see a pretty low scoring, defensive fight tomorrow afternoon, excuse me.
Yeah, the over-under line would suggest that as well. Yeah, it's going to be tough on these backup quarterbacks. Good night, everybody. Thanks for all the support. Please leave a comment, like Coach said, and we will try to get to them. Do our best to keep up with the chat. Thanks all. See you next week. Go Ravens.